Good evening. I'd like to call the Region 15 Board of Education meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Student representatives, Aaron and Nicholas.
Hello everyone, welcome back. We hope you had a wonderful holiday. News for the week. Auditions for Pomperaug Theater Company's spring production were held this past week. The play is called Ubu the Conqueror and is written by Mr. Doniger, who is our theater teacher himself, so that's going to be very exciting to see in the spring. Also, midterms are almost upon us. The first day of midterms is Thursday, January 21st, and there have been many study and tutor sessions planned for students. For example, Science National Honor Society this past week held their first of 2 midterm study and tutoring sessions for science students, and these are called Science and Snacks because obviously there is science and there is snacks. The one last Wednesday, January 6th, held over 45 students who were tutored by juniors and seniors in physical science, biology, chemistry, and physics. The next session will be this Thursday on January 14th after school. Link Crew is also holding Cocoa and Cram, which is an after-school study session on January 19th, which is a Tuesday. Students can bring their notes and textbooks and get help from older students, as well as enjoy snacks and hot chocolate. Also, the date for the senior semi-formal dance has been announced. It will be held on February 20th from 7 to 11 p.m. at Area Wedding and Banquet Facility in Prospect, Connecticut. And finally, Pomperaug debate team attended a tournament at Trumbull High School this past weekend. The topic was children should not have intelligent or internet-enabled toys. And there were no wins for the team, but all the students that went had a lot of fun. And at this point in the season, 3 teams have qualified for the state finals tournament, which will be held at the beginning of early April. So stay tuned for more updates on that. And here's Nick.
Hi everyone. Before the holiday break, Pomperaug held the annual holiday sweater contest. The life skills students, in collaboration with the Link Crew, designed and created ugly Christmas sweaters for the staff to wear. Then students and staff voted for their favorite sweater by donating $1. The money benefited the Victoria Soto Scholarship Fund, and Mrs. Burgess was the winner in the end. $810 was raised by staff and students. Last Thursday, the Guidance Department hosted an alumni college panel, which was students from last year's graduating class speaking on behalf of the college transition process. There was a commuting student, a student from a large school, a student from a small school, a student from a military school, and a Division I athlete. Questions were asked of each alumni, and they each shared their own experiences. At the end, the audience was able to ask their questions. It was both informative and engaging. And just an update on sports, all of our teams are doing very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of our student representatives? Okay, thank you very much. Presentations. Mrs. Botsford, please.
Mrs. Perry and members of the Board of Education, is this on? Yes. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you Mel McVeary. Mel is a physical education teacher here for us in Region 15, and Mel has been awarded, let's see if I can get all those initials right, it's a very long, it's the Connecticut Association of Physical Education, Health, Recreation, and Dance. She is the top teacher in that area for elementary schools in the entire state of Connecticut. So Mel, I'm going to ask you to come up here and I'm going to tell some beautiful things about you. So I would just like the opportunity to read from you from among the various tributes that were written for Mel, both from her nomination, which came to us from Mr. Velarde. Thank you very much, Mr. Velarde. And also from the booklet that accompanied the beautiful banquet at which she received her award. Mel McVeary, physical education teacher at Long Meadow Elementary School in Middlebury, Connecticut, was awarded the Connecticut Elementary School Physical Education Teacher of the Year by the Connecticut Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance at the Fall Conference. The conference was November 19th in Cromwell. Mel has taught physical education in Region 15 for 32 years, the last 18 years at Long Meadow. She is a former student and graduate of Region 15. She received her Bachelor of Science degree from the Central Connecticut State University and a Master of Science degree in School Health Education from Southern Connecticut State University and Central Connecticut State University. Mel's classes are designed to encourage students to find their own joy in being physically active and to pursue a healthy lifestyle. In her classes, her students learn and find reasons why being active is good for them. She says this creates an environment that fosters the love of movement and physical activity. Originally a music major in college, Mel switched her major to physical education after her first year of college, saying her decision was influenced by the many veteran teachers in her family and by growing up in a neighborhood with 6 older brothers. She comments on how she even had her brother as a teacher in 6th grade in Memorial Middle School. Her teaching career began in Region 15 at the former Shepherdson School. Through the years, she has taught kindergarten through 5th grade at PES, MES, MMS, and LMES. Mel blends her love of both music and movement, playing the piano and teaching students locomotor movements to correspond with the tunes that she plays. Her classroom is a place where children find joy in becoming physically active and pursuing a healthy lifestyle. They start conversations about their wellness. They share their perspectives and experiences. They enter activities of their choice based on fitness concepts that they are studying. They make predictions about lifestyle choices. They play with deeper understanding of the benefits of activity because during Mel's classes, they find the reason why being active is so good for you. Mel has served as a mentor and cooperating teacher to numerous new professionals and to student teachers. She regularly attends professional development workshops and conferences and presents what she has learned to her peers. Veteran teachers hold her in the highest regard. When she speaks in department meetings, everyone listens. Long Meadow community recognized her as a leader. She inspires everyone with whom she works to contribute their best. She goes above and beyond what is expected and is the first to volunteer for any special programs or assignments. Her very strong interpersonal skills allow her to forge important connections with parents, the community, colleagues, and administrators. Mel's service to the school community includes special events such as Jump Rope for Heart, Field Day, after-school dance and drama programs, after-school yoga size, running club for staff, ice cream socials, school dance, a PJ story hour, and she is a member of the Long Meadow Advisory Council. With that is just a brief piece of all that Mel has done for us. I present to you for your applause and congratulations, Mel McVeary.
I'll just say a few words. Thank you so much. I'm so fortunate. I went through Region 15, as you heard. Our 3 children, Caitlin, Sean, and Sarah, also went through Region 15 and had the most wonderful, well-rounded education anyone could ask for. And I've been teaching here for many years. It might be a few more than 32, but 32 is good. And I've been very fortunate, first of all, to have a piano in the gym. Not too many physical education teachers get to have a piano. Thank you, Rich Gussenberg, for supporting me with that. Thank you, Joe Velarde, for supporting this incredible curriculum we have for grades 3 through 5 with wellness and letting kids discover the joy of movement. So thank you, everyone, so much. I really, truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Mel, I don't know what your diet is, but could you share it, because you look darn good for teaching for over 32 years. You should be proud. Congratulations. Okay, PHS performance data. Mr. Longarini.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Superintendent Botsford, for the opportunity to come to you again at this time of year to present our performance data. Before you again, I'd like to congratulate Mel. When I began my teaching career, Mel was one of the colleagues that was a mentor to me as I began my career, and thank you and congratulations for a well-deserved award. This year, as we present our data, we will take you through the SAT testing, the AP testing, the SBAC testing, as well as some of our graduation data, just as we did last year. We're very pleased with where we have performed throughout the course of the year and where our data stands at this point. We're going to begin with our SAT testing. The first section that we'll talk about is the SAT critical data. One point that you will notice as we go through the SAT testing, the DIRG data for this year has not yet been released by the state. That is an item that we get from College Board. There is a large report that goes to the state of Connecticut, and they distribute that out to us. From that report of all the schools is where we look through and find that aggregated data that we use to determine where the DIRG is in comparison to us. That data has not been published yet this year. The state is still working on that. They estimate that by the end of the month, that data may come to us. So that's why in last year's report, we did have it at this time. It was represented in there, but this year we do not. Our SAT data in critical reading, as you can see, we went from an average score that was fairly consistent over the last 5 years at between 538 and 536, and we took a nice jump this year with our students performing on average at 552. And when we look at the average score to make that jump, I think that's very impressive. You know, single scores making that jump are impressive, but to do that over the course of an average of over 250 kids taking that test, that's a very impressive jump. And as you see, that puts us at a 5-year high in our SAT critical reading performance. Similarly, in our writing comparison, again, you saw a pretty even over 2011, 12, and 13 between right in the 540 range. We had a slight dip last year to 535, but again, now you saw a nice movement as we went through last year to that score of 555, again representing for us a 5-year high in SAT performance on the writing comparison piece. And that writing piece is a piece that oftentimes with SATs doesn't get as much weight as the reading and the math do. Even with colleges and universities now, it's the reading and the math that holds the greatest value. But the writing is still a portion of it as the SATs come out now. But that is a piece that is still under somewhat of review with College Board. For SAT math, again, that you will see over the last 5 years from 11 to 14, again, pretty steady with our performance, but again, a nice jump last year with a average score of 569, again, representing a 5-year high for Pomperaug High School in SAT performance. So across the board, we've seen a great increase in average performance score for our students in the area of SATs, which was, again, very, very nice to see and representative of the performances that we already knew that we had in SBAC, and that validated for us even further the performances and where our students were going. When we look down at our AP performance, we have seen some nice performance and very steady performance over the course of the last few years. We maintained that steady performance. We had, I believe, 245 students last year that took AP classes. We again had 88% of our students take an AP exam score at a 3 or higher, well above that of the state. We do not get released DIRG data for that. We only get released state data for that, so we don't know where we are comparison DIRG-wise only with the state of Connecticut. But we maintain a very high performance with our AP classes and scoring at 3 or higher. When we looked at our performance as well in terms of our AP scholars with honors, and of distinction, just a reminder for those, our AP scholars are students who receive a score of 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. A scholar with honors is a student who receives an average score of at least 3.25 on all AP exams taken, and a score of 3 or higher on 4 or more of those exams. A scholar with distinction is a student who receives an average score of at least 3.5 on all exams taken, and a score of 3 or higher on 5 or more of the AP exams. And a AP scholar is a student in the U.S. who receives an average score of at least 4 on all AP exams taken, and a score of 4 or higher on 8 or more of those items. And as you can see, as relative to last year, we had a total of 72, which was our highest performance in the last 5 years, and we have stayed very consistent with that performance, with 71 of our students last year performing just as well. So with that AP National Scholar and those last 2 areas remaining the 2 highest, to see a slight bump from 20 to 23, and also that number 5 remain high on those students scoring at 4 or higher on all exams. Very impressive to see that growth continue. Also, when we look at the number of students enrolled in our AP classes, one of the items we wanted to look at, particularly with the new schedule, was that one of the goals of that was to increase the ability for students to deepen the rigor of their transcripts. Last year, we had 249 students that were enrolled in AP courses. This year, we have 303 students enrolled in AP courses. So that is nearly a 10% jump. It's 9.7% increase in the number of students taking AP classes. And also, if you look at the number of students taking more than one AP class, there's been a slight increase in each of those categories as well. So we are seeing an effect. Not only are we continuing to have high performance in our AP exams and rigor in our courses, but we are seeing more students, as a result of opportunities given to them by the new schedule, taking advantage of that, taking more AP courses, and deepening the rigor of their transcript, making them more competitive as they go out and apply to colleges and universities. Our CAP test, again, in science, we continue to measure our performance with the state CAP exam, which is given in the sophomore year. That has stayed pretty consistent, and with the new state adoption of the NGSS standards, we really don't know what's going to happen to CAP. Something's going to happen with it because it's not aligned with NGSS standards. So, you know, it's kind of one of those tests that you know, we're obligated to do, we continue to do, we perform well on, but is getting a little bit more out of alignment with what we are teaching, because we're geared more towards the future and looking at what those standards are bringing towards us. But even with that, we continue to stay fairly high on our performance. Pomperaug is in the red, the DIRG is in the blue. The reason that we don't have the state data here, really both Pomperaug and the DIRG outperformed the state by so much that really the comparison that we just want to look at here is the DIRG. But we do remain high, with over 70% of our kids scoring out goal and above. Remains a very high performance value for Pomperaug. Further in CAP, when we look at the number of students performing at an advanced level, again, we stay very competitive with our DIRG, just 4 percentage points behind of where the DIRG is there. And in both of those, we greatly outperform where the state would be. Okay. Our SBAC scores are something that we have reviewed with you earlier in the year as part of Mr. Gussenberg's report for the district. We did want to break out for you just what the performance levels were at each level, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. I would say as we go through this, we'd like to see the highest performances at levels 3 and 4, with the lowest number of students performing within that level 1, and it's exactly what we see here. Our students that performed at level 3 and 4, again, a total of 91.4% performing there, was the highest performance in the state of Connecticut. For our SBAC math performance, again, we see the lowest performance rate at the level 1, which is what we want to see, the highest performance rate at level 4, which is what we want to see, a total 3 and 4 performance of 69%, which ranked as the 4th highest performance in the state. And putting those scores together and looking at the other schools in the state, that combined score did give us the top performance in the state of Connecticut out of any high school. Another measure which we look at each year is our graduation rate. It becomes increasingly more difficult for us to increase that because we do very well. When you look past over from 2011, moving on, you do see we were in the 90 percentile range, 92 percentile range. We did increase last year from 2013 from 94.6 to last year 96.9. So we are seeing some nice movement in that 4-year adjusted cohort. This is just for Pomperaug High School. Each year we try to drive that up a little bit more, but seeing that percentage rate at 96.9% again represents Pomperaug High School being near the top of the state in terms of graduation rate as well. Beyond graduation, we continue to track through student surveys and at the end of the year looking at where our students are committing to go. We did see an increase last year in the percentage of students that were attending 4-year colleges and universities, a slight decrease in the number of students that were attending 2-year universities, but part of that was because of the increase to those going to 4-year. And we did have a slight increase in the number of students choosing to go into a technical area or another area of education beyond high school as well, some trade work and some apprentice work. But again, very strong numbers, again, representing over 90% of our students going on to colleges, universities, or some other sort of post-secondary educational experience. And then finally, just looking at our competitive levels of colleges, where our students are choosing to go. Again, this data is brought to us by Barron's, which is a national ranking of those schools that are listed as most competitive, highly competitive, and so on, as you see there. Just to give you some background, the most competitive requires a high school rank in the top 10% to 20%, and GPAs in the A to B plus range with SAT scores between 655 and 800, or ACT scores between at 29 or higher for acceptance. Your highly competitive schools require a school rank in the top 20 to 35% with GPAs in the B range, with SAT scores between 620 to 654 and ACT scores of 27 or 28 to get into. Very competitive is a school rank in the top 35 to 50% with a grade average no less than a B, B minus, 3.0. That SAT score between 573 and 619. ACT scores between 24 and 26. And a competitive school requires a rank in the top 50 to 65%, a grade point average between a B minus or C plus, and SAT scores between 500 and 572, or ACT scores between a 21 to 23. And as you can see by looking at the graph, the overwhelming majority of our students, nearly 85% of our students, fall in those categories of schools that they are attending. So again, very strong representation, not only of the work that we're doing here at Pomperaug High School, but what it's preparing our students for moving into their post-secondary choices in education and the success that they're having there. The final slide in your presentation are just the list of resources that we used in compiling the data. So if anybody has any questions or would like to see any further reports or any other schools, that's the locations we got the data from. Okay, thank you. Janet.
Hi. I'm just curious. I've read a lot in the paper about pros and cons about the time students are spending on testing. What is the difference in time between the SATs, which they will all be taking next year, as compared to the SBAC that they took this
Right.
year?
Good question, and we could tell you on March 3rd because we take it on March 2nd. But you know, the time frame that the test is set up to take is relatively about the same. Well, both of them. The SBAC test was it was 2 hours of testing that we took over a period of, I believe it was 3 days last year. So it was about 6 hours of testing. There was and there were also different classroom components to it. So I would say what we see right now, the SBAC would have taken longer than what SAT is right now. What we're hearing from SAT is to plan 3 hours. We're assuming that especially for the first year of implementation, it's going to take probably an additional hour. We want to make sure that that we do everything correct, that all the directions are given correct, and sometimes with the new test, it takes some time with that. The new PSAT is the barometer we're using for that. We all issued the new PSAT in October throughout the state, talking with other principals in the Southwest Conference. Most of us had an average of about three and a half to 4 hours to administer that exam. And it's the same thing. They told us that would take about 3 hours, and on average, it was about three and a half to 4. We were right in there. We were just over 3.5 hours with the administration of ours.
So is that for all 3 components?
They're not given the writing component as part of the state testing. So you're
that's
only taking the reading and the math.
3 to 4 hours.
Right, and that's going to be on March 2nd. So the time frames with that, with directions, College Board is saying should take about 3 hours, but for the first implementation, most schools that we've talked to within the conference and beyond are just planning some buffer time in it this year, just because it's a new experience, to make sure that that we have our schedule correct.
Thank you. How about the CAPS? How long does that take? I should remember that from having kids in school.
One test is 50 minutes. I'm just looking back at Heidi Szymanski's our science department chair, and she's here. One is 50 minutes, and two, about an hour each. Yeah. Yeah.
So 2 hours for CAPS.
Yeah, 2 hours for that.
And that wouldn't include, would that still include English language arts, even though?
No, CAPT is only science.
It's only going to be, oh, that's just
It's
science.
only science, and that's given to sophomores. The SAT test and the aspect test was given to juniors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question for you. How much has the format changed on the SATs overall? Is it still basically like it was before, or has it changed?
The format right now is very similar. It's still a bubble sheet. You're still filling it in. They do have some of the testing can be given computer-based, but for anything you're doing as a whole school test is still given by Scantron. The biggest difference is that this test is aligned with Common Core. The leveling of questions that they ask and the intricacy that they ask is slightly different as well. So it does get a little bit deeper, but in terms of the content and what's being asked, it's the alignment with Common Core that has made the most significant change. Are there any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay, approval of minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 7th regular meeting?
Motion to approve the December 7th, 2015 regular meeting.
Is there a second? Are there any additions, omissions, or corrections? No. There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 7th executive session?
Motion to approve the December 7th, 2015 executive section.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any additions, omissions, or corrections? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you. Information and proposals, Finance Committee. Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On December 16th, the Finance Committee met. We had an update from Mr. McLiverty on the budget freeze and some new and unanticipated costs that we are facing. We continue to watch the situation in Hartford carefully, in particular the state funding the region with the funds that they are obligated to provide us. Early indications are that the state will be reducing its funding to towns and boards of education. This is in part why we did have a soft freeze, and we still have that in effect today. The Spectrum Group, along with Jessica Chiaretto, presented the Finance Committee with a report on their services for 2014 to 2015. The types of sessions, the number of sessions, the individuals utilizing Spectrum were reviewed. The committee asked for a copy of the presentation to be in the minutes that will be forwarded to the full Board of Education. Regarding the next item, our Pension Committee. The Pension Committee also met on December 16th, where we were updated on our portfolio performance. Year-to-date estimates and discussion and action was taken to add a new fund to the plan, which is within our asset allocation parameters. While we are pursuing return, we are cautious of the risk. Byrne Wealth Management continues to have a stellar performance, and we are working very closely with them. That's my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions of Paul? Okay. Policies and curriculum. Steve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are some policies up for first read tonight, and so Rich, this is going out to you because you always want to know why we have to make these changes. So I just want you to know. And to you. So policy 1331 is where Public Act 15206, an act regulating electronic nicotine delivery systems and vapor products, requires us to add the definition vapor product to our smoking prohibition policy 1331. A vapor product is any product that uses a power source to produce something that may or may not contain nicotine. Policy 4235 is the same, so that same act regulating electronic nicotine delivery systems and vapor products wants us to add the definition of vapor product to our own alcohol, tobacco, and drug-free work policy. Policy 4139 is also up for a first read, and there was a Connecticut Public Act 15-6, which is an act concerning employee online privacy. It was passed in 2015, and our attorneys felt it prudent to add the phrase "in accordance with applicable laws" to the policy. Policy 63.6, Public Act 15215, which was an act concerning various revisions and additions to education statutes, dictates that boards of ed shall prescribe rules for the management of internet access and content. Our board attorneys felt it prudent for policy 613.6 to more accurately define the term internet access devices, and the first paragraph of the policy shows a more updated version of what an electronic device is. Policy 6145, Public Act 15.5 from the state updated the list of curriculum topics that teachers can exempt students from to include the topic sexual abuse. The policy also updates the procedure by which parents would request an exemption, specifying that the request must be made in writing at least 2 days before the topic is taught. We also have up for a vote tonight Policy 5152, passive alcohol screening and breathalyzer testing. After the first read, Mr. Babrick had a question regarding visiting students. What would happen to them if someone invites a guest from another school? And of course, they would be tested as well. The only difference is that we couldn't enforce our own discipline or any other type of policy on them if they tested positive, so they would just, I guess, be returned from where they came, but that would be the end of that. Mr. Spierto had asked sent me an email about the policy implications in terms of privacy, legal risks, and image. In terms of privacy of the student's privacy, there's wording in there in the policy that the people administering the test should make every means possible to do it in as private a location, as they can. The legal risks, the board attorneys feel that this is, if anything, puts us in better legal footing because it spells out exactly what the board is permitting. It, in a way, prevents, and I'm not saying Mr. Longarini is going to do this, but it prevents him from acting, say, indiscriminately. It prescribes for him, where he, can or cannot do this and the procedures that he is to follow, so that is fair, for everyone going through the procedure and fair every time that he does it, assuming that the policy is followed. And lastly, you asked about the image. I can't really speak to that because I just can't. So I want to welcome Mr. Cookson and Mrs. Perry to the committee and thank Mrs. Connolly for her, 4 years, 2 years, 4 years of faithful service. That is all.
Thank you, Steve. Any comments or questions from board
I have a
members?
comment. Steve, you mentioned a public act or state regulation or rules from the state on every single policy except this last one. So there is no state regulation involving this last policy.
You're correct.
I was under the impression that our policy had to follow or mirror state regulations.
Not all of them mirror state regulations. Some of them are written without them. This does follow case law, United States case law that has been put forth regarding breathalyzers and passive alcohol screening devices. But there's no state statute that says we must have a passive alcohol screening policy.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, if I may, I would like to take this opportunity also to say thank you to Mrs. Connolly for joining our Finance Committee. It's a pleasure to have you on our Finance Committee. Thank you so much. And Mr. Cookson, for the years of service that you've given us on the committee. It was a pleasure working with you. That's it.
Any other comments or questions? We're all thanking each other tonight. A lot of touchy-feely stuff going on, I know. PTO Advisory Council? No?
I just wanted to announce the PTO Region Dinner date has been picked. It's May 12th at the Heritage, as usual. Theme yet to be determined.
Who's hosting it this year? Do you know? Okay. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, board member comments.
I just wanted to mention that, like many of us with our checkbooks this month, the agenda has the wrong year. Has 2015 instead of 2016. I don't know if you keep these, but I keep mine, so I like to have it accurate.
Madam Chair, may
Thank
I give,
you.
may I give a report on SMART?
You certainly may.
Thank you. So to the board, Marion and I are trying to make regular attendance to SMART and just using this time to update the board on the work of SMART. So SMART, Inc. is a nonprofit organization funded by the Central Naugatuck Regional Action Council and the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services to carry out the responsibilities as the local Substance Abuse Prevention Council, serving our two towns of Middlebury and Southbury. In addition, SMART is dedicated to strengthening individuals, families, and the community through its parent universities and other family, school, and community events. Some points from SMART's November meeting are the following. SMART coordinated with Mr. Longarini on the Be Smart, Don't Start campaign. The winning slogans for each grade will be hung in the hallways at PHS. There is an interest among SMART members to try to replicate the contest at the middle schools. On November 12th, SMART hosted a showing and discussion of the film Misrepresentation for students and parents. The documentary film explores how mainstream media contributes to the underrepresentation of women in influential positions through limited and often disparaging portrayals. The purpose of the event was to educate attendees and to encourage cultural change in how young women view themselves and their futures. The Community of Concern books were mailed, the books were printed by SMART, and the envelopes and postage provided by Region 15. Superintendent Botsford provided a PDF copy of the Community of Concern book to each board member via email. And SMART has committed to the district to purchasing 6 passive alcohol sensors at a total cost of $1,800. These devices are held within a few inches of the subject's mouth to detect the presence of alcohol, and they would be used in conjunction with Board Policy 5112 should that policy pass tonight. SMART has a new website, smartinc.org. And for more info on the date and time of the next meeting, you could visit that website. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any other board member comments?
I would just like to add one thing. I noticed that Ms. Federley is here from SMART, and I just wanted to say, and piggyback on what Steve said, thank you very much for helping us with the breathalyzers. You've really put your money where your mouth is, and we appreciate you helping us out.
Thank you, Marianne. Any other comments? Okay, there being none. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The board has the personnel report. Item 2 on my agenda, I would like to thank very much the members of the School Calendar Committee for their work on the 16-17 calendar. That is before the board for a vote tonight. That committee was led by Mr. Don Rapuano, who is here to receive everybody's thanks, and Mr. Rich Gussenberg, who is also here. As you may or may not know, this task is traditionally assigned to our least senior administrators, so we thought Don and particularly Rich were very, very good candidates for this noble assignment. Critical to the work of the committee was the participation of both teachers and parents. There was one teacher from each school and one parent from each school. The Board of Education was represented by Mrs. Perry and Mrs. Connolly. Thank you to both of you for participating in that committee. 16-17 is the first year for which we are required, as are all districts in Connecticut, required to follow a regional calendar. There is some allowance for some flexibility, and that flexibility was taken into consideration by the calendar committee. Because those requirements beyond 16-17 are not yet specified by the state, the calendar that's before you for a vote tonight is just a one-year calendar. That's different from our past practice of presenting 3-year calendars, but it makes sense given the current information that we have. Also before the board tonight is the schedule for Board of Education meeting dates coming up, also for the year 16-17. And for that, we have followed our normal practice of meeting second and fourth Monday of the month, with only one meeting in October, December, and June. Sometimes there is only one meeting in May. That has to do with where Memorial Day falls. And for this particular calendar, we were able to put in 2 meetings, so you'll see that they are both there. And the last piece is the budget schedule overview. The schedule as of right now is for at the regular Board of Education meeting on Monday, February 22nd. That is scheduled for me to present the superintendent's budget at the Board of Education meeting right here. On Monday, March 28th, is scheduled the presentation of the board's budget. In between those two, there would be board budget workshops, as is our routine every year, for the board to delve into the superintendent's budget and for the purpose of determining the board's budget. They are yet to be scheduled, but they will be scheduled between February 23rd and the week before March 28th. Okay. Monday, April 4th would be the public hearing on the budget, which then goes straight into the board meeting and the board vote on the budget. That's April 4th. And Tuesday, May 3rd is the district meeting, which opens up the vote on the next day, meaning that the budget vote is on Wednesday, May 4th. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions of Superintendent?
I know it's obvious, I just want to, the board budget workshop dates, if we could get those as soon as possible, please, just so we can get them on the calendar, because they always conflict with something.
Any other questions? Okay, comments from citizens? Okay. There being none, we have no old business. New business requiring board action. I need a motion for approval of the 2016-17 17th Board of Education meeting schedule.
Move that the Board of Education approve the 2016-17 Board of Education meeting date schedule as presented.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to see how people would feel about adding a second meeting to October, October 3rd, when I check the calendar. I realize this is only a week after the meeting, September 26th, but we also have another point on the calendar between our last meeting in March and our first meeting in April, where only a week separates it. And I always feel like we're in such a crunch to get things done and hear reports before we enter the budget season. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
No, I'm just looking at the calendar. What does, it's a, yeah. Yeah, that, I think that was one of the problems that we had with that calendar. And plus we have the 3 days, the 10th, 11th, and 12th off from school. So, yep. Okay. Okay, it's my old brain. Where are we in this? Has it been? Oh, that was okay. Okay, are we ready for a vote? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you. I'm glad I have all this help tonight. I need a motion for approval of the 2016-17 region calendar.
Move that the Board of Education approves the 2016-17 region calendar as presented.
Any discussion?
You need a second.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Just a quick question. There were how many people total on the committee? I heard one from each school, one parent from each school, a couple administrators, a couple.
And there was a teacher from each school, a parent from each school, a few administrators, Rich? Okay. 4 administrators and 2 board members. Sorry.
No, it filled the conference room, the big conference room, so.
'Cause when I first read it, I was very concerned about the 5-day weekend in October. But if there was parent representation and that's what the committee came up with, then just have to, I guess, accept it as a 5-day weekend in October.
Yeah, there was, as Jennifer can attest to, and everybody else that was there was a lot of discussion, some great concern, and everybody felt that it was, parents would just choose to keep their kids out of school and make it a long weekend. It was a difficult decision. I can't say that it was unanimous, but majority ruled, so.
And actually, a big concern of the teachers was the interruption in the educational program. In fact, one of the teachers said something to the effect of, we're in the business of education and I want a calendar that lets me do my job well. And they felt having them come back on that Tuesday, with having been off Friday, Monday, and then being off on Wednesday would not be a value. So that was really the driving force behind having that Tuesday off.
And as I understand, we had no choice in the matter of having that Friday as a professional development day or that Wednesday
Right.
that's also a professional development day, so
No,
we
I
were.
believe that's a Jewish holiday.
That's a Jewish holiday, okay.
What happens is you have 5 flex days with this calendar. 2 of them are Jewish holidays. 1 of them is our June contractual obligation. 1 of them is because we go to school on Veterans Day, that counts as a flex day. So basically, the calendar committee had 1 day to make a decision that might be different than this regional calendar. And so they chose to put it on that Tuesday.
Did they consider going to school on Columbus Day?
They did. It was brought up. It was an idea that didn't seem to gain any traction with the group at all. Again, this is a 1-year issue. Come next year, the Jewish holidays are, I think, in September, so this doesn't come up again. I think if you're going to have a conversation about taking away Columbus Day, it's a fair conversation, but it would be, I think, whatever policy you made, you'd want to keep it consistent. You wouldn't want to have it off 1 year and not off the next year. So it was felt that this is a 1-year issue. I know Mr. Gussenberg said he's already given feedback to Education Connection about when they do plan the calendar, even though everyone doesn't take the Jewish holidays, please factor in where you're putting these professional development days, because some of us do. We kind of were handicapped by where those were.
And can you elaborate, how did the parents on the committee feel about this October break?
It was an overwhelming majority. However many people were there that day, it was, roughly 16 or 18 that were in favor of having this.
Just one question. How do we treat October 11th? Just as a holiday, just as a personal day off? How are we treating that?
It's just,
A day off. We've just chosen to use one of our flex days to have that particular day off strictly because of the oddity of the calendar. Since we were going to have Friday, Monday, and Wednesday, the committee just said made no sense for us to come in for that 1 day. But there's no special, reason or anything like that.
So we're just using it as a flex day overall in our schedule.
Any other questions regarding this? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposition? Abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you. Announcement of future meetings, Wednesday. Oh, I'm sorry. Boy. Adoption of policy number, the most important one, probably. Adoption of policy number 5112, passive alcohol screening, breathalyzer testing.
Move that the Board of Education, upon recommendation by the Policy and Curriculum Committee, adopt policy number 5112, passive alcohol screening, breathalyzer testing, as presented.
Is there a second? Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Okay. Okay, announcement of future meetings, Wednesday, January 13th, Finance and Facilities Committee at Central Office.
One opposed, no abstentions.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Yep. That's why I repeat it. Finance and Facilities Committee, Central Office at 6:30. Monday, January 25th, 2016. Policies and Curriculum Committee at the PHS Media Center Conference Room at 6:30. And Monday, January 25th, Board of Education meeting in this room, 103 at 7:30. Tuesday, January 26th, the Board of Education Special Meeting Workshop. Purpose, it's an FOIA presentation with Tom Hennick at Central Office at the conference room at 6 o'clock. The snow date is the following night on Wednesday, January 27th. I need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations. Our superintendent and our finance and facilities director, Mr. McLiverty, are invited in. Could I have a motion, please? Oh, and council.
We'll be voting after the executive
Yep,
session.
and we will come out of executive session and vote in public on the contract negotiations.
Moved that the Board of Education moves into executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations with possible action to follow in the public portion of the meeting.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? We are moving into executive session.